Sup, bros. It's me again, Terry. I'm a bull, and I've got something for you bros today. It's a nice, excellent piece of mental gymnastics. If this were the Mental Gymnastics Olympics, it would get a 10 out of 10, bros. You don't even know. But yeah, I've seen this floating around on Twitter, so I actually decided to go ahead and read it. There are a bunch of articles like this, and I will be going over this one because I think this is the one. This is the one that I think's been going around. If it's not, it probably says the same thing. I read a few articles and they all said the same thing. I'll bring up one chief difference in the two articles that I did read at the end because there's a interesting spin the other one did on it. But let's just jump into this. This is from the National Post. It's Rise of the Bromance is Bad for Women Could Become a Genuine Relationship, says study by Joseph Breen. The rise of the intimate bromance as a new form of friendship has liberated men from the stifling bigotries of homophobia, but it imperils young women who are increasingly regarded as little more than targets of sexual attraction, according to new sociological research. Not bad so far. I and nothing really to say about that aside from I don't think it's true. The bromance may not be the progressive expression of enlightened masculinity as is sometimes described and portrayed in movies, said Adam White of the University of Bedfordshire in Britain. That is because there is going to be absolutely no perfect expression of progressive enlightened masculinity to you, bro. You can't even decide on what that is. You're basing all of your assumption on feminist ideology, and even feminists can't decide what proper masculinity should even look like. I mean, radical feminists think that gender should totally just be abolished anyway as a concept, and there should be no male or female gender stereotypes at all, while intersectional feminism acknowledges that the male gender is a thing, but pretty much demonizes every single thing about it. They, on one hand, say that men should express themselves, but if a men's rights activist or a MGTOW or anyone like that expresses their dissatisfaction with the way society is going and treating men, they're suddenly misogynist. But if they talk about the struggles with where men have abused them, oh my gosh, that's so horrible. But if a woman has abused them, oh my gosh, you were totally lucky in having that sex with that woman. It's a total double standard, and there's so many different opinions in feminist ideology about what exactly constitutes good masculinity. I mean, if you look at the entire list of traits that are considered toxic masculinity, you see women doing that all the time, and it's perfectly okay when they're doing it. So you're looking for an impossible standard to find, so nothing is ever going to satisfy you in this regard, bro. Rather, it may be a regressive development with especially worrying results for women, because research based on interviews with male undergrad students concluded that men saw their female romantic partners as judgmental and as the primary regulators of their behavior. This has led to generalized disdain for women and a view of romance in which men feel they are constantly posturing and self-monitoring, not only to achieve desired heterosexual sex, but to prevent relationship destruction. Okay, so women are being imperiled and uh, women are being imperiled by the bromance, but bros are seeking bromances because they feel that their girlfriends and romantic partners are judgmental and trying to control how they act. But men seeking ways of expressing their emotions to other bros is a bad thing because why? I mean, when a bro tells you that his girlfriend is judgmental and polices his actions all the time, maybe it's because his girlfriend is judgmental and polices his actions all the time. And bros, I'm not saying that people don't change to better serve the other in a relationship. That's true. People change for other people all the time. But when someone is actively complaining about what you're doing all the time, that could be a form of abuse. It's on a case-by-case basis, so obviously talk to your friends, talk to your bros, friends, and family about it if you're worried about it, or a counselor. But if you're in a relation, if a bro's in a relationship where his romantic partner is constantly policing his actions, and he complains about it to you, maybe it's because that person is constantly policing his actions. That's all I'm saying. I mean, yeah, if they are generalizing this to all women, that is actually a bad thing, because not all women do that, just like not all men sexually abuse or harass women. So, yeah, that generalization is bad, but if all of their experiences have been like that, then how can you blame them? Because it is possible to go through your life and attract people that have bad character. And if all the relationships you have are with women who have bad character, you're going to come to that conclusion. It's simple. And bros, women can have bad character. Men can have bad character. This is a people problem, not a gendered problem. A key theme of the bromance, on the other hand, it was the freedom to express themselves without judgment and to engage in emotional intimacy without fear. Yeah, yeah. The rise of the bromance is very, very good for men, White said. It offers young men the opportunity for, as research found, elevated emotional stability, enhanced emotional disclosure, social fulfillment, and better conflict resolution compared to the emotional lives they shared with girlfriends. Okay, you're still failing to point out why this is bad for women. But it's not necessarily benefiting women, and in fact, it may well be disadvantaging them, White said. Okay. Um, Especially with the recent events surrounding the women boycott Twitter and all the rants that have been put on. I'm going to find some screenshots to put up here. I don't know how many times that I have seen women tweet, men are not entitled to women. Men are not entitled to a relationship with a woman, or sex with a woman, or to be around a woman all the time. But now, because men are finding some sort of degree of happiness without women, it is now disadvantaging women. It's bad because it doesn't benefit women. Actually, I don't see how this doesn't benefit women. If 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 two people are in a relationship and the man is going through emotional and psychological trouble that he can't express to his romantic partner, or doesn't feel comfortable expressing to his romantic partner, that can cause many more conflicts than not. So if a bro has a bro he can confide in and everything and get things off of his chest and relieve all this psychological stress, that can actually improve the relationship with the woman. There is nothing bad about this. I mean, I know that they're going to try and say, I know they already implied that this is going to make men just view women as objects to have sex with, but that's just assuming that most bros have that view in the first place, which they don't. Most bros just want to have a relationship with a woman, possibly have kids, and have a relationship that helps them grow and where they can show their love to someone else and be selfless towards, because that's what a lot of society, both feminist and non-feminists, idealizes. But nothing there's nothing here that is disadvantaging women or not benefiting women. If a man is psychologically healthy, if a woman is in a relationship with a man and he's not psychologically healthy, that's going to be bad for her. But if he is psychologically healthy, it's going to be good for her. And if he has to have someone to talk to aside from her to achieve that, why is that wrong? I could see it possibly being wrong if he's having to go to another woman to do it, because that could easily spell the end of a relationship. But if it's another man, and if he's not gay or bi, there's nothing wrong with that, because in that instance, there's no chance of that being a possibly cheating in a relationship. If it's another woman, he could be cheating in the relationship, so that could cause a whole lot of problems. But if it's a man, then no. I don't see how they're coming to any of these conclusions. The new paper in the journal Men and Masculinities even suggests that bromance could be a widely accepted domestic arrangement, with sex so freely available without emotional attachment through social media, for example, and because bromances occupy such a privileged spot in young men's lives, the bromance could increasingly become recognized as a genuine lifestyle relationship whereby two heterosexual men can live together and experience all the benefits of the traditional heterosexual relationship, according to co-authors White, Stephen Robinson, and Eric Anderson of the Universities of Winchester and Bedfordshire. Why wouldn't it become a genuine relationship style? And still, how is this bad? If men can are finding ways of finding emotional fulfillment in other men, why is that bad? And why is it necessarily going to preclude them finding emotional satisfaction with women? These two things are not mutually exclusive, bro. They're not. You're treating as if it's a total zero-sum game. if there, why this assumption that men are just going to abandon women, I don't get it. What happens in 50 years, say, if these romantic relationships really take off and men decide, hang on, we really enjoy these. These are much better. We can gain more emotionally from it. We're less regulated. We're less policed, White said, and therefore women actually just become sexual fulfillers of men and nothing else. That's the worrying aspect. What? Well, wait. This is just a huge fucking speculation. You can play the what if game for anything. What if women. I mean, seriously, what if this bromance thing really takes off and men are like, hey, we're getting so much emotional fulfillment from all this, and then an asteroid strikes the Earth? What then, bro? Women most affected? I mean, seriously, what? What are you. Bro, well, actually, no. Your fear is 100% valid because there already is a group of bros who have just given up on wanting to benefit women in any way, and it's called MGTOW. Yeah, the thing is, it doesn't necessarily fall into the bromance paradigm that you're setting up here, because I'm sure they do find emotional fulfillment from other men in some cases, but yeah, MGTOW exists. They're a minority. I mean, there are more and more guys becoming MGTOW, men going on their own way, but it's still a relatively small group of people considering. But yeah, just because bros are finding emotional fulfillment in men that they can't find with their romantic partners doesn't mean that they're suddenly not going to want romantic, intimate relationships with women that go beyond more than sex, bro. The fact that this is an underlying assumption in your study means that this is not an objective study. I mean, you're treating some things objectively, but you're filtering it through this lens that this preconceived notion that you have. And, well, actually, I shouldn't comment too much on the study itself because I haven't read it. And I found it. It's 22 pages and I haven't read it yet. I'm planning on doing a follow-up video to this once I do, though. But that's a little bit of a digression. But yeah, there's just the assumption that men are just going to abandon women when they find something better. I'm sure that what this looks to me is like these bros have problematic, yeah, problems with the relationship already that they need to deal with. I'm sure that they could find other women who are much better fits with them. But I honestly don't know for sure, so I can't really say anything on that matter. But moving on. The key historical context of the bromance is the recent decline in homophobia, the paper argues. We contend that the male preference for emotionality between other men rather than women has come about due to a significant cultural shift in the structure of masculinity, reads the paper. I agree with this to an extent, but I'm going to go into what I disagree with later when they bring that point up. They actually will go more into the point that I disagree with later. The paper notes that in the late 19th and early 20th century, when men posed for photographs together in physically intimate ways, wrote endearing letters to each other, and even slept in the same beds in non-sexual contexts. This is true. And I'm gonna hold off comment to the next one. But the increasing social visibility of homosexuality led led to a led to a led led to a climate of hysteria and stigma. To prove that we were not gay, we acted hyper masculinity. To prove that we were not gay, we acted hyper masculine. White said. Bros, this bro is trying to speak on behalf of us all right now, so we should accept it because if one bro says it, it's true for fucking everybody. Just like women. Fact. Where was I? As a result, men began to distance themselves from each other emotionally. The paper quotes one scholar to the effect that men have not known what it means to love and care for a friend without the shadow of some guilt and fear of peer ridicule. Women's behavior has also socially been policed and restricted, but women are traditionally freer to express a wider range of emotional behavior, and they maintain friendships through sharing emotions and disclosing secrets. But men shared almost nothing of their emotional life, and only knew they were friends if they participated in activities together, like playing sports, drinking, fixing things, or gambling, the paper argues. Now, I would have to read the paper to actually see what it says. I to before I totally judge, but it is true that women have been freer to express themselves emotionally, and that men have typically been less emotional in public. And to an extent, yes, that is a societal thing, but I don't think that it's just a sudden societal construct of men can't do it and women can, or vice versa. It's a thing of men and women are different and they deal with things in different ways. Now, not every man or woman will deal with their emotions in the typical average ways that their sex usually does. Everyone's different, but on the whole, bros might do better with just working their problems. For example, like I've been learning how to draw lately, and I've noticed that when I do it when I'm stressed, once I finish the drawing, I feel a whole lot better. It's worked out that negative energy that I've had into something constructive, and I mean with art, I can actually express that feeling in other ways aside from just getting it out of my system through doing something. But yeah, there's tons of men who like to work through their problems by fixing things or playing games or drinking. I mean, and I'm actually going to do an entire video on this subject right here eventually. But if you've ever listened to country music, one of the biggest recurring themes in country music is that is a bro going to the bar and talking to people about his feelings. Be it I mean, it's not even just a country music thing. I mean, in movies, going to the bar and pouring out your feelings to the bartender is a thing. I mean, just the fact that there is male poetry in art and music in the first place, that is an emotional outlet. It's a socially acceptable emotional outlet. It might necessarily not be directly interpersonal, but it's still bros getting their feelings out so others can hear and feel them and relate to them. I mean, hearing someone else going through the same thing, when one person hears someone going through the same thing in a song or something, that can actually help them deal with that thing. Because they relate it, they say, oh, someone's going through the same thing as me, and they feel that connection even if man or woman is not in the same room with them. So, but yeah, but the reason I disagree with this is men don't know that they were actually friends unless they were doing these things. No! I know my bros are friends with me despite the fact that we don't always do things with each other. We talk online, we talk on Twitter, we talk on the phone, we text. We're not necessarily doing things, but we still know that we're friends with each other, and this is not a new thing. I don't know who the people in this paper who said that they never felt that they were friends with other bros without doing things with each other, and I would be very interested in reading that paper. But I have to say I've never seen that in my own life. And yes, I know, and that's just anecdotal evidence, but seriously, yeah, like I said, I'm gonna have to read the paper itself to make my own for actually see what it says before I can actually definitively say something about it. As times have changed and we've seen homophobia decrease and homosexuality become more accepted notion within society, what we've noticed is that people no longer need to do what Adam White said. Do that, Adam White said. People no longer care about being thought gay, and therefore they can behave in a number of different ways. All sorts of things are now open up to men, open are now open up for men, open to men, you mean? Opening up for men without them being thought to be a sissy or a fag because nobody cares. Well, I meant to make this point in the last one actually, in the last paragraph actually, but men have been able to get together and have homosocial relationships for a long time. That's what fraternities are for. That is what fraternal organizations like the Masons and the Boy Scouts are for. Those are all male outlets that enable men to have non-sexual relationships with other men and grow together and bond. A men's only fishing trip is that. The only difference between that and a bromance is these are now public. Perfectly fine to have. It is now becoming more and more socially acceptable to have public displays of affection with other men without it being considered gay, necessarily gay. That's what you're saying here. But men have been able to have private, platonic, non-sexual relationships together in private for longer than this past century. And the rise of homosexuality being in the public eye just drove them to those more. And I agree, that's a good thing. But I am still failing to see how this is bad for women. It was in this modern climate that the bromance emerged, first as a movie genre, a mix of the buddy movie and the romantic comedy. Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen, James Franco, and Michael Cera have all famously played the part. The cultural adoption of the bromance term represents an increased recognition that young men are permitted to have more diverse and homosocial masculine identities, the paper reads. Yep, and I agree that that's an overall good thing for everybody. Today, as White describes it, university residents are full of young men cuddling and expressing emotional intimacies. Everybody's doing it, and there's not even a consideration that it might be gay, he said. Cool, cool. I think it might be an exaggeration that everybody's doing it, but then again, I live in Texas and not Britain, so who knows? The research was based on 30 interviews about the romantic and bromantic lives of male undergrads, each of whom had at least one bromance and one romance in the past year. We are basically like a couple, one said of his male friend. We get called like husband and wife all the time. It's like having a girlfriend, but then not a girlfriend, said another. Beyond the need for sex, we found that for this cohort of men, bromances performed very similar and often superior functions at romances, it concluded. Yeah, I think you are implying, but, bro, you're taking you're taking the platform of a few bros saying that they feel better with their homosocial relationships because they're finding these relationships more fulfilling because they're actually able to be themselves. Like I said earlier, I think that these bros are in bad relationships and they should probably try and find new relationships and maybe judge for better character before pursuing a relationship with someone. I don't know, I'm not them, but you're taking a total leap in logic from a bro saying, "Okay, I actually like having this relationship more than my girlfriend," to saying, "Oh, I think I would much rather have a platonic male relationship than any female relationship." And unless one of those men said that, I don't think that's true. And you interviewed 30 people. Now, like I said, I haven't read the study, so I don't know any of these statistical what have yous about it yet. But I think as a general rule, taking 30 people and applying the findings of 30 people from one university to the entirety of the male population across the globe is asinine. It is 100% asinine. That's just like, I mean, this fucking happens all the time. I mean, it's not just feminists that do it. It's all sides do this. And actually, the Honey Badgers did a entire podcast on this phenomenon with Aiden Paladin, which I will put a link to in the description because she actually goes into the psychology behind this type of thing. So, but it's when one person does something, it smears the entire group. And the media uses that all the time, but they hate it when they do it to a group that they like. So you'll find feminists say when, like the Harvey Weinstein thing. Harvey Weinstein was a sexual predator. And now they're saying all men are responsible because they are complicit in Harvey Weinstein's act, when that's patently not the case. But when someone like Amy Schumer admits to raping a totally passed out drunk man, not all women are sexual predators. And that's fair because not all women are sexual predators, but not all men are sexual predators either. So, yeah. I mean, that's the thing that's probably going to happen for a long time now, but it's very intellectually dishonest for someone who is doing a academic study to be engaging in this type of thing. This study, I'm going to read the study itself and do a follow-up episode to this, but this was not a fully objective study. I mean, everyone has their own biases, but they're looking at the data and explaining it with their own worldview instead of actually trying to figure out what it means without their worldview. And that's just fucking wrong. And I'm really excited to look into the study to see what actual full conclusions they made, because these articles have a tendency to spin things. And there was an article I was going to do on a study I was going to cover back in June about a study that talked about how men who work out are less empathetic and desire social equity less than those who don't. And I read the Vice article about it, and it totally poisoned the well for me, because the study itself said hardly any of what, well, actually, the study said the stuff it quoted, but in the context of the study, it did not mean what the Vice article said. So I'm actually going to look at the study to find out what it says, and see how much this article spun it. But like I said, there was another article that I found, and I'm going to, it was, in contrast, this is talking about this is the part of the article talking about how the bros feel much more free to express themselves with other men. In contrast, the young men often said they could not fully talk about their interests, anxieties, health, and sexual desires with the women they dated. With the romance, they complained, one was constantly posturing and self-monitoring, acting the part of the adoring boyfriend to achieve the desired outcome, i.e., sex. Notice how this article focuses purely on men wanting sex, whereas the other one said that they were trying to merely keep the relationship together in some cases. And then listen to this spin. The researchers report the men expressed quite a few sexist sentiments, albeit these were presented in a humorous and banterous way. Some said that they were reluctant to open up to women because they held on to grudges longer than men and were more unpredictable in their emotional responses. In addition, they often generalized personal experiences to women as a collective under an us and them binary, which associated all women with any negative experiences the men had. Having bypassed the chance to have honest and meaningful conversations with women, many seem to view them through a stereotyped lens. Uh, lack of self-awareness in that paragraph is just so, so beautiful. It's just like a work of art of lack of self-awareness right there. And then it ends. Perhaps if Sherlock Holmes didn't have such a satisfying bromance with Dr. Watson, he wouldn't have been a lifelong bachelor. But yeah, I like how the more social justice oriented one, not, I don't know what the National Post is like really. I don't know how what their bias is, but I think it sounds a whole lot more balanced, because it actually brought up the fact that they weren't just trying to get sex, they were just doing all that to just hold the relationship together. And that one just ignores it. It's, oh, men are just there to get sex. Douche bros are just out to have sex with women and that's it. And that's not the case. But yeah, bros, that was that pile of mental gymnastics bullshit that I still genuinely don't know how they came to any of those conclusions with that, but they did, and so yeah. This is the stuff that is getting passed around in academia nowadays. But yeah, bros, what do you think about that? Do you think the entire bromance thing is an overall positive thing? Do you think that it's going to be horrible for women and lead to an abandoning of women aside from sexual relationships, as the study seems to say? Or do you think it's just something that's going to benefit society overall, both men and women? Let me know in the comments below, or on Twitter, or on Minds. I'm on Twitter. Minds. I don't really use Gab, VidMe. Hit me up on any of those places, bros. I love talking with you. Let me know what you think. And once again, thanks for listening. I'm going to keep an eye out for my follow up on after I've read through the study. It's like 22 pages, so it might be a while for that for me to properly process it and everything. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and peace, love, Taurus.